Today is March 18, 2024. Welcome to session number 2 of Discovering the Essence of Nonviolent Communication, an open-hearted practice group with Jim and Jory Mansky, and I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Martha. We really
Sweetie.
appreciate your help, the sense of support and warmth, and your willingness to support the participants really touches me. So thank you for being here. How are you?
Oh, I feel a little bit tired, but energizing just looking at your faces. So glad to be able to spend this time together. It's very sweet to really feel that sense of community. Thank you for coming to be with us.
Yeah, similar for me. I'm really happy to see you all. It's fun for me when you have your camera on, because then I get to really have a sense of connection with your face. And of course, I really want to honor your choice about whether you do that or not.
Absolutely.
What's on that screen with lots of faces is not recorded, so you're completely private. The only people that are recorded, as Martha mentioned, are the people that are speaking in the speaker view. So today's class is about presence. We started exploring presence last week to begin this series, which will go till the end of the year, where we're going to be focusing on 28 skills for deepening and integrating nonviolent communication in your life. And the basic fundamental skill is presence, and all the other skills are built on top of presence. And that's really cool because we don't have to teach you how to be present. I hope that your takeaway from the call today is that presence cannot be taught, that presence is actually your nature as a human being, or as a being, even without the human part, that you are presence. And so there's going to be some little experiments and exercises we're going to do today that will help you to see if that's true for you, whether it's just some belief that Jim just tried to lay on you, or whether it's your own direct experience. So that's what we're going to be playing with today, is presence. We'll also review briefly what we did last week. We won't go over everything we did last week, but we'll just touch on the slides that we had, just in case you weren't here. So if you are here for the first time, let me give you a little orientation for what we do. It's a practice group. So much of the group is in small groups with 2 or 3 peers. And some of the group is here with everybody in the community room. And we divide those 2 pieces up. And it depends from class to class where we spend the time. But we'll do both today. That's the intention. And that's to give us a chance to practice nonviolent communication. And there's 3 general ways that you can practice NVC. NVC is nonviolent communication for short. One way is through self-connection. So in a moment, we'll listen to a song today. That'll be a chance for you to just notice what comes up for you when you listen to the song. And that'll be our self-connection. And Martha will be making small groups for us of mostly 3s. There might be some 4s. And when the song is over, we'll give you some instructions about what to do in the small group. Then after you do the small group, we'll come back here to the large group, hear from some of you about what your experience is like, and then we'll launch into the rest of the presentation for today. So before we launch into that, any questions or anything that's up for anybody that would prevent us from carrying on? Okie dokie. I'm going to share my screen with you and play a song. Before I do it, let me say who this person is. I just found this song today. And I was at another meeting earlier this morning amongst the assessors. The assessors are the group of people that help the new certification candidates go through their process and become certified trainers. And so we were having our monthly meeting today, and someone wanted to play, to actually say the words to a song by a woman named Ruth Bebermeyer. I hope I'm pronouncing her name.
Yeah.
And so Ruth was a colleague of Marshall's back in the 70s. And so I found a couple of albums of hers on the internet today And I found this really cool song called A Human Being that I'd like to play for you. And so I'm gonna, there's no really audio, I mean, a video to go with this. I gotta make sure that I share it's optimized for, maybe I don't have to do anything anymore. So those buttons are gone. Okay,
Okay.
great. So this is Ruth singing a song called A Human Being. And
just say that I'm a human being separate, being flesh and bone apart. Just say that I'm a human, seeing with just one pair of eyes, one half blind heart. I don't think I can ever know enough to know that I can say more than just the way I see the world and you and me today. I can't judge you right or wrong. All I can do is understand. I can't take away your loneliness, but I can take your hand. Just say that I'm a human being, a kaleidoscope of changingness and flow. And I will not be tomorrow what I am today. That I'm changing means I have the chance to grow. Just say that I'm a human being, being freed of the illusion. Can be more than another human being. I do not ask of you what's not in me. I don't think you can ever know enough to know that you can say more than just the way. All you can do is understand. You can't take away my loneliness, but you can take my hand. Just say that we're both humans, being able at the most to understand and love. And when I'm enjoying you and you're enjoying me, I just say that being human is enough.
But just take a minute to do nothing and take it in.
Yeah, just notice how that sits inside of you right now.
You could specifically pay attention to what's going on in your body.
Mhm.
What sensations and emotions are flowing in your kaleidoscope? How did that song touch your needs? Did it feed them? Or did you have a neutral experience? Or did you not like it? Just honor your own experience in terms of your needs and feelings. And then think about, in a minute, you're going to be with a couple of new friends. Maybe there'll be people that you met last week or at another time, or maybe there'll be brand new people that you've never met before. What would you like to say to them about your experience of this song or the group so far? Knowing that you get to choose what you want to share in terms of your honesty. And then most of the time, you'll be listening. If there's 3 people in the group, 2/3 of the time you'll be listening to your friends. How do you want to show up as a listener? I have a couple of suggestions. Don't use your mouth to listen. Just use your heart. Just use your ears. So just see if you can practice silent empathy. Unless somebody asks you for feedback or makes another request. Then follow your heart. So that's the exercise that we're going to be doing next. Is go into small groups for 12 minutes plus 1. So that's leisurely. So you have a chance to kind of introduce yourself to your new friends, maybe say your name, where you're from, how you're feeling.
And choose a timekeeper. Whee! Whoa.
All right.
Sweet.
Wow, we've got a lot of people here today. Got 3 screens worth to savor. Looking at you all. Love it when you have your cameras on. That's so sweet for me to see your faces.
Yeah, it really
Hi,
is.
Juliana.
Hi, Rena.
Hi, Corey.
And
Hi, Jim. Julie.
yeah.
Neat.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, look at this.
So after the small group check-in,
Juan's
we
here.
love to have the opportunity to hear from 3 or 4 people about how you're doing so far with today's class or with the series or with your life or with that small group that you were just in. So if there's something that you would like to share with the large group, just raise your hand or you can
There we
write
go.
something in the chat. And go ahead, Saud.
Did we pronounce it right?
Saud.
Saud. Ah, thank you for
Yes.
clarifying that.
Oh, I noticed my heart beating really fast.
Mhm.
It's gonna take a few moments to settle.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think I'm going through a difficult time, and I'm not sure how much of that is contributing to my current experience. But what's really alive for me is, Jim, when you shared that we're all presents. I mean, I resonate and there's a yes, but I'm also not, and I struggle to be present. And there's degrees of presence and it feels like a gradient. And I think in my limited understanding collectively, as human beings, as we struggle to be present, and to ourselves and to each other, and that's why the state of the world. So this part that really struggles and sees the state of the world and is in pain feels like we are not present and wants to speak to that. And
Yeah.
that's what's most alive for me.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you for sharing what's going on, and I hope it will be supported for you as we go forward.
Yeah. And I'm with you with what seems to be a challenge of presence in the world. And I share your diagnosis that much of the world's drama, painful drama, is because of what of a lack of attention to one another and to our needs. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Saud.
that motivated your song too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and we'll go to Rama next.
Yeah, hi, it's Ramal. And when you were playing the song, I was wrapping up things in the kitchen, so I couldn't pay 100% attention, but I was listening and kind of looking at the screen. And the sentence that really touched my heart was, I can't remember exactly, something to the effect of, I'm not going to be the same person tomorrow like I am today. And that felt very profound to me.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. And I did put it into the chat, and so did Purva. Purva found it for us too. And so it looks like there's a couple of different ways that you can get to that with Ruth's song. The words are not written independently of the song, I noticed. So you'll have to kind of go through it and write them down or take screenshots of each verse or whatever you want to do. All right, Juta. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Utah.
Yuta.
The J's like the Y. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. I just wanted to mention that I downloaded 2 of the handouts that were for session 1, and I noticed that they were given a date. So there were feelings and needs tables, and I was intrigued that that there would be different words depending on the year. And I guess that makes sense though, because language changes frequently. So yeah, it's I don't know, I just really, I don't know, made a big impression on me that these words change. It's not the same. Yeah.
Yeah, our interpretation of the words that connect do change. I don't think that list has changed much since 2017, when we kind of started teaching NVC more in the style that we're doing now. What really changed was a lot of the contact information on the bottom of the screen, which is why I put a new date on it.
Oh, I see.
Because it had the old version had old contact information, and when I share the screen or share the document with other people, I want to make sure that I get the most current contact information on the bottom. So thanks for pointing that out, Utah. Great. All right, if you've been waiting for to be the last person, this is my weekly joke. I say the same joke every week. If you've been waiting to be the last person to speak before we go do something else, now's your chance. See, it's just as funny this week as it was last week.
I know.
Because she laughs at all my jokes.
I know. I'm entertained by him often.
Okay, so we'll move on. We'll start practicing. And share my screen with you again. So
Patty had her hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I was fine moving on too, but there were a couple things that came up in our group, and that this is a good example of that's tiny micro frustrations, like that some of us couldn't hear the song auditorily that well, and then getting set up in the groups, and then we just talked about that being part of the word that really hit a couple of us was human being versus a human being.
Yeah.
Being human. And and presence all fits in that. And maybe even what was just said about noticing there was a change in wording, you know, that what we hold on to sometimes as our comfort zone with what's going on. So I did raise my hand, but I didn't do it down below. And so that's another example. So if I got missed, it would be fine. It would have been fine. Thank you for somebody noticing. But
Yeah.
we're, you know, we're just, yeah, we're humans being.
And we're doing the
Yeah.
best we can to be human. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for checking in with us, Patty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hear that some people couldn't hear the music of the song, and that's really interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I did notice that something was different in my Zoom interface, where there's usually when I share my screen, there's a little button on the bottom, and maybe Martha can look into this between now and next week to see what's going on. There used to be a button that said optimize for sound or something like that, optimize for video. And so that was missing for some reason. And I hear that Ramah says the voice was breaking. Great.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate the feedback. All right. So let's go back to share the screen again, and we'll start the class and start getting some practice going. So this whole series again is called Discovering the Essence of Nonviolent Communication. And we are on the second week, which is about presence. And we started last week by just looking and empathizing with this guy who's sitting on it must be one of the most beautiful places in the world. I don't know if he's really there or if this was photoshopped, but I just like empathizing with this guy and the sense of space, presence, and focus that I imagine that person is experiencing. So just take a moment and be there.
It reminds me of when we took that hike and just sitting there at the end of the hike.
Yeah, my empathy for him is that he's savoring, or that maybe he's touching awe.
Yeah.
And awe is a theme that we will return to periodically throughout this series of classes. And I encourage you, it's for me, it's one of the most delightful ways to practice presence is through awe. And you can do it in an awfully magnificent, awfully magnificent number of ways. We live in Maui, so it's maybe easier for us, feel kind of spoiled, but just like walking through the yard, suddenly we'll see a monarch butterfly or two, or we'll hear a melodious laughing thrush singing its daily tune or whatever. And there's this, I'll do my best just to pause and just to be present for that, like this person on the dock. So if all you did today was sit on the edge of the dock and ignored everything that we said, you'd get everything that you really need to get from the class. But just in case you have a left brain and you want to fill up your left brain as well, this is the slide that expresses the skill that we're working with. Presence, being attentive to what is happening right now, not lost in thinking, emotional reaction, etc. So, and then there's a natural progression of learning that all of us human beings go through when we're learning any new skill. We always start out in an unskilled state, and where we don't know whether it's presence or some other skill. We just don't know. We don't even know that we don't even know this skill exists. And this shows up with presence in that it's like someone was saying during the check-in, that we just get unconsciously lost. And that this is actually a symptom of the disconnection in the world, is the sense of unconscious being lost in the past or the future. And there's a sense of identification with thinking and doing rather than being a human being. And then suddenly we awaken. We become aware of this skill called presence. And we start noticing the difference between being alert and being asleep or lost. And then maybe we do some practices. Maybe it's meditation or other mindfulness practices, or just practicing NVC for me is a mindfulness practice. And we begin to be able to witness ourselves and our own behavior as well as the others without moral judgment. And this really supports a sense of presence. And it also helps us to notice when we become absent. So we'll be playing with this, this dichotomy today between presence and absence in some of the exercises. And finally, there'll be this sense where you'll just find yourself being present without even trying. In fact, I think you'll find that out today, that you're present more often than you give yourself credit for. That often we human beings, because of the way we've been educated in the school systems that we went to and so forth, we ended up being hard graders on ourselves. So let's do the first practice. Stop sharing my screen and invite you to practice. So this is a practice of utilizing your memory to savor something delicious that has happened in your life. So that's the frame. So think of a time when you were with someone that you sensed was present. Maybe it was present with you, or maybe you were observing someone being present with somebody else. But think of a time when you were with someone that you sensed was fully present. And then describe, if you're taking notes, which I encourage you to do for your own journaling, describe the situation to yourself. Write down what was happening, who was involved, as much detail as you would like to add. So for example, our first international intensive training that Jory and I did in 2002, we were with Marshall Rosenberg, and someone in the group got very triggered about some old pain. And so it became an opportunity for Marshall to work with this person. And I really sensed Marshall's presence with her. So be quiet for 2 or 3 minutes while you think about it and write yourself some notes. Now that you've described the situation for yourself, what did you notice that indicated to you that the person was present? Like, how did I know that Marshall was present? So I'll just make one observation. Marshall had his body oriented towards the person who was speaking, and he was giving, trying to do this as observational as possible with this little evaluation. He was nodding his head or being still with his head, and it seemed to depend on what the person was saying and what they were talking about. There was a sense that my evaluation is Marshall was kind of following the flow of this woman's self-expression and letting her know that he was with her with his body language. So how do you know that the other person was present? Make some observations if you can. I put the steps of the practice in the chat, so that you'll have it for your notes. You'll also get a copy of the slideshow in the classroom. So let's hear from a few of you, specifically about the answer to number 2. How did you know the other person was present? So you can either write your answer in the chat and one of us will read it, or you can raise your hand and let us know. What was the evidence of presence? Eye contact. Go ahead, Rama.
Yeah, so I've had the blessing of being with 2 spiritual teachers, and every time I've interacted with them, I could feel like as if they're penetrating my soul. It was just like, could just feel it. Like, I can't even talk about body language. It was just like, I was the only person in their universe when I was speaking.
Yeah, so it sounds like you really tuned in at the level of your own heart and your own feelings and needs, and that your need for presence and being seen and mattering was fully met in that moment. Is that close?
Very, very, yes.
Yeah.
Close, yeah.
Thank you. And Jeremy?
Fully attentive and asking encouraging, inquiring questions.
Yeah, so the questions that we might ask might enhance the sense of presence, especially if they're questions that support presence, that aren't about the past or about the future. Thank you. Georgia?
I just had a thought about my dog, actually. Not a person, but another soul.
I beg your pardon. I think dogs are people.
Oh, yeah, I know. Me too. But yeah, the total connection that they have when you're speaking with them, or that they look at you, and that's soul penetrating. And just their whole presence is with you and not with anything else at various times.
Yes.
So
Pets
it just
can
made me think of
wonderful.
that.
Yeah, pets can be wonderful presence teachers. We've always been cat
Yeah.
people more than dog people, but cats can be remarkably present. Our last cat, who just died in December, her name was Deep, and we didn't name her Deep, but her previous owner that we got her from named her Deep because she had that sense. She had these very mystical eyes, and she could lock on and do that eye contact thing and really support a sense of presence. Guiha? Sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
When talking about the presence, I record my experience of walking, so not people, and I'm a little confused. When I'm walking, I feel completely immersed in it, losing track of time and the noise around me. And when I come out of the walk, I sense a strong flow of joy, a strong energy around me, inside of me. So it is presence, or I lost in my work.
Don't know. You might be pointing to a particular kind of presence. Maybe it's a kind of presence called the flow state. And in the flow state, we as separate individuals totally disappear in whatever activity that we're doing. And this is a prized human experience. We all love it when we move into that flow state. So it sounds like you might enter that kind of state in your work, which I'm so happy that that's your experience. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing that.
Umesh?
So I have felt presence many times, okay, but I will select one. Okay. So this was about 1.5 years back, and I was going through turmoil. Okay, like 4 or 5 months. Okay, I was being judgmental, felt shame, guilt, all that fog. Okay, and I was also, so I went to my father's Guruma. She's Kabir's follower, and then I met her, and she got me. I said quite a few things. Okay, shared things. Okay, and then she was like, "Okay, but you have come here. Okay, and there must be a reason." And she could see what I needed. Okay. And which I also didn't know. Okay. Being fully present over there. And that gave me a peace, which was like, okay, from that turmoil, okay, gave me that rock or something, okay, hey, you can pass it. Okay, so that was it. Okay. And that day I realized, okay, what makes gurus, okay, and different from, okay, the normal, who repeat, okay, because they have a depth of human understanding that normal people don't.
Yeah.
Very present.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
And someone put into the chat that maybe I misunderstood what Wei-Hua was saying. That she might have been talking about walking, whether it was working or walking. I'm not so sure it matters. It's just this sense of basically being
Present.
totally present. I'm trying to find some other words to
Yeah,
describe it. It's like
certainly fully here.
it's like the boundary between me as a separate self and whatever else I'm engaged with, whether it's listening to somebody else or watching a movie or taking a walk or hanging out with a butterfly, the boundary disappears. The sense of separateness dissolves.
Mhm.
And that's full presence for me,
Yeah.
is when there's a sense of no longer me and you, but us.
Yeah, right here, right now. Fully engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Colleen, then we'll finish with Andrea and do the next exercise. Colleen?
For me, one of the things was when the person was reflecting back, I kind of had the little story, and then I said, and I don't know what to do. And they just forgot about the story, and you don't know what to do. They just, that succinct little piece of it. And when they did ask me a question, it was a question to help me make meaning, not to help them understand.
Mhm.
They were complete with me somehow.
Nice.
Mm.
Yeah, very important piece that the questions weren't leading you, they were pacing you. They were being with you rather than trying to take you to a place that you weren't.
Mhm.
And they weren't necessarily for the other person's needs. They were really making a contribution to your presence with the questions. Andrea?
One of the most exhilarating presence experiences that I've had is singing barbershop, which is unaccompanied 4-part harmony. And when you get the right 4 voices together, you can't tell whose voice you're hearing, or it's as if all the voices are coming through you, because there's this melding that you completely lose your separateness because you're so tuned into what's coming out. And it's just the most exhilarating experience I've ever had, of oneness, that 4 are really one.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Sounds like a wonderful path.
Yeah.
Barbershop quartet singing.
Yeah.
I never was much of a singer. Jory's a good singer, but not so much me. I would be a real challenge to your presence if I started singing for you. Linda?
So I was thinking 2 things, and maybe somebody said this one, but when I was going to move to where I am now, and I was trying to explain to my kids how I was feeling about it all, my daughter met understood what my needs were without me having to say it. I mean, I was saying it, but I wasn't being clear enough. And she just took the reins, so I knew she was really hearing me. So, and then the other thing that I was thinking about was being in sort of like what was said about the barbershop quartet, being in a space like in nature or I went to Baja and was very fortunate to touch a whale. And so being in the presence of something really amazing that just kind of takes your whole sense of self.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people have already said that, but yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's awe. That experience of awe is a super highway to presence.
Yeah.
And then it can become like a reference experience for you. So let's just say that you're really wanting to be present for a friend that's in pain. And you really want to show up in the way that we've been describing here. And so you might do some preparation work before your meeting to listen to your friend. You might remember this awesome experience. You might contact your own direct experience of being having someone being present with you. And then maybe we would even do this next exercise as part of it, which is the next practice. We're going to turn it around. And I'd like to invite you to think of a time when you were present for another person, even if it was only for 10 seconds. It doesn't have to be like for 45 minutes or anything. Just a time when you really sensed that you were fully present with another person.
Mm-hmm.
And again, write down the observation of who the other person was, what was happening. And then what's your evidence? How do you know you were present? See if you can describe to yourself how you know that you were present. Mike or Anna, you have a question?
Oh, I was just going to comment if you wanted just on how I knew that I was present for somebody.
Okay, can you hold it for a second?
Yeah, let people
Of course.
assess theirs, but thank you. I'd like to hear it.
Me too. Just keep your hand up.
No, oh, is it that hand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the third question, we were just thinking about the past, but right now you're likely having a feeling.
We can't hear you, Jim.
I hear you.
Thank you.
And
So
she was commenting
I'm
the
not
second
quite
one.
ready for that yet. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. So how do you feel as you recall this? this is like, we've been thinking about the past, but now you're likely having an emotional response in the moment. So bringing it back to, how are you feeling right now? And savor these feelings. Savoring means to extend the pleasure of something. And there may be mourning, excuse me, there may be mourning that comes up too, like Tiana put into the chat. I feel sad that I don't do this more often. That seems very human. And then see if you can link these feelings to your needs. Why do you feel the way that you feel? In other words, what needs were fed or are fed through your presence? And again, we'll hear from a few people. We'll just hear from the three hands that are up, and then we'll go to small groups, Martha, to talk about this again for a brief round.
If possible, keeping people in the same room,
Yeah.
if not.
And if you can adjust the room so there's three, that might save a little time and give people a little more chance to express.
Right.
So Mike, I mean, sorry, Anna, what did you want to share earlier? Thank you for your patience.
Oh yeah, it doesn't feel that important, but a girlfriend called me up and she was talking about work, and she just really was expressing her frustration about everything she was experiencing. And at the end of the conversation, I just remember her saying, "Thank you so much for hearing me and understanding, and like basically holding space for me." And that's all she wanted. And I just got off the phone and my heart felt so happy, because to be able to give someone the gift of that is all that I would want to do.
Yeah.
Right? Without needing to fix her or give her advice or,
A wonderful contribution.
Sweet. Yeah. I love that you're pointing out just presence sometimes is the present that people need.
Yeah. And that was, I think I was thinking that at the time, like, oh, and I didn't even feel like I did that much, but it had that impact, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I think we've all had the experience of someone being very present with us. And so now you're really pointing out how we can do that too. Thank you.
Yeah. And Candace, and then Ian. Candace?
Wow. I was an obstetrician gynecologist. So I have at least 7,000 in present reactions or interactions. And when you're especially, well, anytime, gynecologist doing surgery, whatever, but as an obstetrician, you had to be there. You had to be right present with your patient, two patients, the mother and the child. And I was so lucky. I was so lucky. I adored it. I loved it. And the needs that it felt, well, first of all, how I knew that I was present was feedback and outcome. And just in my inner, my inner soul, I was there. The universal needs that I can read down, okay, was bonding, compassion, connection, respect. I can go down the line and just like, there were like a million, well, all of them, I was just so damn lucky. I
You
was
were
so damn lucky.
Damn lucky. Let's just savor that for a minute. Love it. You're pointing to this this thing that I learned from a guy named Manfred Max Neef, who was an influence on Marshall. And when there's a particular strategy that meets multiple needs in a reliable way, like your job in your case, delivering babies, he called that a super satisfier. And I just love that. We all have this superpower to figure out strategies that can meet multiple needs in a reliable way, including the need for presence. We'll go to Ian next, and then Chandana, and then we'll go to small groups.
Okay, I'm thinking of a very unusual situation. I had a close friend who was in the hospital. He had basically like a heart attack, and it aspirated some vomit and caused lung damage. It was like very touch and go if he was going to make it or not. And I went to visit him in the hospital, and there were a bunch of people in the room, and we're all talking to him, though he had a tube down his throat and couldn't communicate verbally. And I noticed that he seemed kind of agitated, and everyone else seemed to be kind of ignoring the agitation. I kind of like took assessment of the room, and instead of talking about things I was doing, whatever, said, you seem kind of agitated, a little bit of a head nod, and the look in his eyes were like, yeah. And I started looking around the room trying to say, what would be making him agitated? And eventually I think I noticed it had something like figure skating on the television, this music playing for the figure skaters and all this. And and I was asking, like, is it this? Is it you feel uncomfortable physically? Is it that? And then eventually I said, is it, do you want them to change a channel on the TV? And his eyes just opened really wide. It's like, that's it. And I had them change the channel to something else, and I said, do you want to turn the TV off? And I was like, no, you didn't want to turn the TV off. I just couldn't take the music and the ice skating. And I knew that, that I was present by his reaction when they did. It's just like, to see the gratitude in his eyes.
Wonderful. And I love how you're pointing to this intimate relationship between presence and empathy. That's why I think it's such a foundational skill, presence, because it really is going to support your empathy practice as we practice for the coming year and the rest of your life. Chandana?
And I just want to say, if you're speaking, just to leave your hand up until you're done, otherwise we can't see you anymore.
Okay, Chandana?
Hello, everyone. This is a really precious opportunity, and my heart is beating very fast because what I'm going to say is very meaningful to me. I was with a friend in the last days of her life, and I had this awesome experience that I can tap into any time of being present, and I wrote some notes about it. What did it really mean to me to be present for the other person? And for me, it meant really looking out for their needs, following their breath, experiencing this moment as really sacred, and that nothing else mattered in the world, a sense of timelessness, that I was deeply touched with a feeling of love and sweetness. And when you asked, how did it link to my needs, when I was to extend or savor the feeling, I wrote my need to be loving and supportive, and my need for connection, and this incredible respect that was flowing between both of us. I mean, there is nothing in my world or that I've experienced that was like that. I was deeply touched and changed forever.
Sweet.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And I want to give everybody the opportunity to share. And Rama, I wonder if you could hold yours until we come back so that we can move into small groups. Or again, for 12 minutes with 1 minute at the end to finish up your conversation. Again, like Jory suggested earlier, it's wonderful to have a timekeeper so that everybody gets a chance to practice. Some of the groups are 3, some of the groups are 4. So adjust yourself there, and we'll be back here in 13 minutes. Back, everybody.
There's Corey. Haven't seen you in a while.
Hey, Corey. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a little mosquito.
Oh, really?
Wants to become my friend and become
Oh,
one with me.
no, don't push him my way.
I'll sacrifice myself for you. Come and eat me. Okay, here we are. Zoom.
Yeah, I'm gonna open the door because I'm hot.
All right. I think we're gonna check in first with Rama and see if she still has something alive. And then we can hear from 1 or 2 other people before I want to make sure you get the other exercises. Rama, is there still something alive in you?
Yeah, just wanted to share that I'm always aware of when I'm being present and when I'm not present. And when I'm not present, meaning like I have a shallow presence, I don't like it. But when I'm truly present, I feel complete and authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You notice a difference that really makes a difference for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Ranjit, then Tanya, then Eliza. Then we'll exercise some more.
Yeah, Jim and Jory, what's emerging for me is, you know how open I am, and open means an open mind, an open heart, and an open will. And so almost 3 words sort of mirror that is curiosity, compassion, and courage. And the more open I am, the more present I am, and likewise, the converse is also true. And I feel presence is all about sensing and feeling and the energetic dimensions of that exchange is what's emerging for me.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And Tanya?
Is my lovely partner was talking about her sense of presence. And as I was listening to what she was saying and just really sort of going into kind of like going along for the ride, my wild puppy here suddenly calmed down and started looking deeply into my eyes. And of course, as you see now, she's completely back to her energetic self. But it was really great. I had such a wonderful time with my partner. Thank you.
Now, can everybody see her and her dog?
Yeah.
At this moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's how it
great.
works.
Oh, okay, that's how it works.
Yeah. And Eliza, then we'll finish with Sarah.
Hey, hey y'all.
guess we'll
I
do
had an aha moment about why I was able to be present to someone. One of the things that I'm starting to learn to do in my life, moving from being a doer to a beer, is when I got a request to, hey, can I talk to you? And I knew this woman's mother had just died, and I knew it was going to be a lot to be present to this person. I checked in with myself and I was like, yeah, I'm available for that. And there are times when I get phone calls where I'm not available. And in the past, though, I would should myself. I should be available in order to be a good person, right? So there's this strategy to like be a good person, meet this need to be a good person somehow. Anyway, I'm sure we'll explore that more of that later. And I could just feel that like I was totally at ease with this person. But it was on a different day when I had a harder day, or something happened where I didn't feel good inside. I I wouldn't have been able to be as present. So it just reminded me that the first thing I need to do is be present to myself and my own reality in order to be present to someone else. So thank you.
Thank you for making that clarity.
And Eliza.
So something that came up in our group, all of the ladies in my group have ADD or ADHD. And so we were talking about how difficult it can be to be present when you feel the need to keep moving. And I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Me too.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I think we're all on some kind of spectrum somewhere. I'm a leg bouncer. I'm a drummer, you know, and sometimes I'm present to those behaviors, and sometimes I'm not. I'm present to something else. What I notice is I can only be present to one thing at a time. That multitasking is an illusion, that we all live in thinking that we can do more than one thing, but we can only have one thought at a time, and then another thought, and then it can come very quickly. We can only have one feeling. We can only have one experience. And
They can bounce back and forth and appear to be at the same time, but they're not.
And so I think that we're all wired up that way at some level. And that for me, the joy is in, and we'll cover this in a lot of depth when we get to self-empathy, but it's about noticing what's actually happening, naming it for ourselves, and then allowing it to be without any resistance. And that for me is the secret to cultivating more presence. How does that sound to you?
Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll finish up with Sarah. And Dina, I'm going to ask you to hold it so that we can make sure to get through these other 3 exercises. Sarah?
Thank you, Dina.
Sarah, if you're talking, we're not hearing you yet.
Your hand is still up and you're muted.
I already spoke.
Oh, you already did.
I didn't put my hand down. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so let's practice again. I'm going to teach, you know, one of Marshall's jokes is we walked into a second training we ever did with Marshall, and Marshall said, started the training, there were about 50 people in the room, and he said, how many of you are here because you think that I can teach you nonviolent communication? And of course, we all raised our hand. That's what we all paid our money to do, is for Marshall to teach us nonviolent communication. And so then he said, well, I'm going to start off with disappointing you, because I can't teach you NVC. I can only teach you I can't teach you what you already are. So it goes to this human beingness.
Yeah.
Again, that presence is our basic nature. So let's just test it a little bit with 3 relatively quick exercises, and they'll build on each other. Then we'll go back to small groups so that you can talk about it directly with people before we go to a checkout round. So the first exercise, you don't have to change anything about what you're behaving, how you're behaving right now. Simply bring awareness to your breathing, that you are breathing. And then cultivate intention to know breathing. This intimate thing that we do over and over again, bringing an awareness to knowing breathing. Told you it was a quick practice. So now we'll do the next one. It's very similar. It's going to be building on that. So just let it go for a second. Look around the room. Maybe think of your favorite fruit. And then just notice again that you're breathing. And bring attention to knowing breathing again. You know that you're breathing. So bring attention to that knowing. And then bring some intention to counting your breath. And count it on the in-breath. So every time you take a breath in, just count 1, 2, 3, but do it silently in your own head. So if you have a brain, it has this part of it called the default mode network that as soon as you did that for a few seconds, you probably start thinking about getting dinner ready or picking up your kids at school tomorrow or homework that you have or 10,000 other things. So that's okay. Just notice that you were aware of that. And then just return to the breath again and count the in-breaths. So that's part of the exercise, is to become absent to your attention and notice the absence. So I'll be quiet again. Notice that you're breathing. Knowing breathing. And counting the in-breaths. And then let it go. There's no way to make a mistake with these exercises. You just notice what you notice. We're going to make it a little more challenging. It's a exercise after all. So we're going to stretch a little bit. And it's actually going to support your presence because it's harder to do. You're going to need to focus more. And focus and presence are very close cousins. So we'll start with the same thing in just a second about noticing your breathing, blah, blah, blah. But on the inhale, and I'll guide you through it so you don't have to try to remember it. On the inhale, you're going to count 1. And on the exhale, you're going to count 10. Then on the next inhale, you're going to count 2. And on the next exhale, you're going to count 9, 3, 8, 4, 7, etc. Until you space out. Then to start over again at 1.
Or if you finish that count and get to 1,
And start over again. Yeah, I can't get past about 4 after 25 years of practice. So I'll put the instructions into the chat if it's helpful. And I'll guide you through it. First, notice your breathing. Bring intention to knowing breathing. And then bring attention to counting. 1 on the inhale, 10 on the exhale, 2 on the inhale, 9 on the exhale, etc. Now be quiet for 3 minutes while you practice. You space out. It's part of the practice. Notice that. And just start over. 1, 9. 1, 10, 2, 9. If you notice absence, that's great. That's part of the exercise. You notice that you're doing something that was different than your intention and attention. So you just notice it and gently bring yourself back to your intention. 1, 10, 2, 9. So Martha, if you could make the groups just 9 minutes long with 1 minute at the end. So a total of 10 minutes. That'll give us time for a little summing up at the end. And open them up. The idea in the small group is that you share what your experience was. Is a gradient. It seems like my capability to focus on a particular thing is very much related to the state of my needs. If I'm hungry, thirsty, whatever, overwhelmed, then my focus is definitely affected by that, but not my presence. I'm aware that my focus is challenged, but my presence is unmoving. It's actually the background of all of my experience, and that's the foreground too. That seems to match your experience as well, Pooja.
Thank you so much. And then when we focus on the breath, it brings us into connection with presence.
It does. That's my experience. It's like a little super highway to help people who maybe have never had an experience of mindfulness, to see that this thing that we carry with us constantly, our lungs, can be like always available to us, and to bring us to that state of presence and focus. Yeah. And me too, I see that you're here too. Is there anything that you would like to share here while we wait for folks to come back in about another 2 minutes? You're muted, so we can't hear you yet.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my question is same, what Pooja asked, like when I'm focusing on breath with the numbers, it is still doable. But when I'm listening to other person, me fully present gets distracted by my own thoughts, which are like what I should be saying next, how I should make sure that the other person feels okay, or how do I make sure that the other person feels that I understood the person.
Yeah.
So my mind is racing, so I don't think I'm fully present at that time.
You're not focused in the way that you would like to be focused.
But you're fully present to your own thoughts, it sounds like.
Yeah, but exactly. You're fully present to your thinking. And that's the avenue back in, is you just notice, oh, wow, I'm trying to figure out what to say next. Is that what I really want to do? Well, my need really is empathy here. So what I really want to do is shift to feelings and needs. And then, so you actually let your absence become the superhighway, back to presence again.
So my absence to attune with other person's needs and feelings, and my presence to my own needs and feelings.
Right. And you can actually coach yourself back. Just tell yourself, go back. That's all. It's just that simple. Just go back. It's okay if you shift out, you know, your foot goes into the other doorway. Just come back.
Just notice it and come back over and over and over again. And that way, this counting the breath thing actually is perfect practice for empathy practice. We're just not paying attention to breathing when we're listening to someone's pain. We're paying attention to their feelings and needs.
Okay, people are coming back.
Yeah, folks are coming back now. There's about, just a few seconds left, and then we'll zoom back here. Here we come.
Can I ask you something quick? Like for me, it is like I just kind of get it. Like I say, oh, this is the person feeling and this is what he's needing. Am I too fast to judge because I want to go back to my needs and feelings so fast that I just kind of, narrow it down earliest?
Could be. Only you can answer that. So I would say that would be a wonderful experiment just to observe and then see if you're getting your intentions met. Okay, so we only have like 3 minutes left. And so I want to kind of sum up what we've done today.
Yeah.
First, thank you for your participation. And thank you, Martha, for supporting the small groups in happening. There'll be one more opportunity at the end of the call to go to a small group. We call it the after party.
Yeah, small, not necessarily, but two groups.
A couple of 2 or 3 groups just to hang out, maybe find an empathy buddy and so forth. That'll happen in a couple of more minutes. But let me share my screen with you and just kind of sum up what I'm hopeful that maybe some of your takeaways were today. Wrong one. Again. Go. So one takeaway: presence is a foundation for all other NVC skills. So the way that I hold it is, when in doubt, move towards presence. If you're lost in empathy, if you get caught up in your own emotional experience, move towards presence with that experience.
And it's just that simple, that you either listen to what's actually happening inside, outside, or even just watch your breath, just to come back to right now.
Second takeaway is it's our nature to be present. We just had the pleasure of becoming grandparents about 2 months ago. And Nora Miles is a bundle of presence.
That's the little baby.
When she first came out, that's clearly all that was there, was her presence. You could see it in her eyes. When they were open, they were mostly closed, but she was just so full. It was so wonderful for me to be in empathy for such a present being. Happens to me with pets as well. We have a dog that lives with us, and Kira is fully present. And it really is fun to empathize with that. Third thing is we're always present to something. We may not be present to what we want to be present to. We might, that I would call focus. So let's say we're listening to somebody and we want to be in empathy with them, but we start kind of rehearsing our grocery list or our to-do list for later. Well, we notice that we're present to that. And then from that, we can make a new choice. Do we want to stay focused on the grocery list and call this empathy session off? Or do we want to move back into listening for feelings and needs? There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It's just a choice.
It's just waking up to the awareness of it, and then you can choose.
The third thing is that, or maybe it's the fourth thing, that noticing absence is presence. So we have this tendency, because of the way we've been educated, to make absence wrong. Oh, I should have been paying better attention. Or I lost focus and I lost the thread of the movie, or what was that character's name again? And then we start blaming ourselves for being, whatever our favorite judgment of ourselves is. But what has been so liberating for me is to realize that my absence, noticing my absence, is presence. I'm noticing, I'm always present to something. And then the final takeaway is that from this foundation of presence, we enter into the land of self-responsibility. In other words, we can become able to respond to what life offers us. And we can more and more choose that which serves life. And that's what this foundation of presence will give us, is the opportunity to discern choice and choose focus, and then move towards making life more wonderful for ourselves and others. I'll put these into the chat like that. So Jory, how are you now?
I am in this moment a little bit concerned about the after party, whether that has been created.
Martha's working on it.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's what came up for me. And I also feel a lot of excitement and appreciation to see your faces when you're willing to put your screens on. But even if you aren't comfortable with that, just to know that you're there and that we're coming together with our shared reality of caring for ourselves and each other. So thank you all for being here. It's a real gift to me too, to be able to see you and feel that companionship.
It's been a thrill for me to be with you, over 100 of us again today, and it's been full of learning and connection for me. I loved you sharing. My only regret is that I didn't hear everybody's voice. Hopefully over the course of the year, we'll hear more and more voices and can hear your voice as well.
And I see a bunch of the voices in the chat, and I'll read through that just to connect with all of you who want to comment. Thank you.
And 2 requests for Martha as we finish. One is that Martha open the groups in just a second. And secondly, Martha, if it's handy, to put the link for donations. We are doing this as a fundraiser for an NBC Academy scholarship program. NBC Academy has been very generous in making their classes and offerings available to people who have economic situations in their life that would prevent them from otherwise being able to enjoy the training offered by the dozens and dozens of trainers now on NBC Academy. So your gifts will help to make that possible, to expand that program over the coming of the year.
And Jim, there's a request to you to mention the name of your book.
Yeah, it's called Pathways to Nonviolent Communication. And I'll just put it in the chat. And you can get it out, as far as I know, you can still get it on Amazon. Oops. And we'll be back next
hold
week.
on, there was a okay. Okay.
We'll be back next week. The class is on observing. For those of you who like to do homework, keep reading Marshall's book. Read as much of it as you like. If it's one paragraph and you totally savor that paragraph, that's enough. If you want to read 2 or 3 chapters, that's great. I put an article about presence that I wrote in the classroom. If you'd like to read that and make some comments on it, that would be great. And then there'll also be the slideshow from this class, as well as other practices that will be offered through the classroom in the next day or 2. All right, so that's it for us. Thank you all for being with us. Martha, appreciate it. Anything you'd like to say about the after party?